As students, we experience firsthand the impact of the decisions made by our school board, from academic opportunities to school climate, from extracurricular activities to student well being. These decisions shape our daily lives and future success. That's why it's so important to hear from the candidates who are running to serve our district's Board of Education.
Tonight, we have the opportunity to ask questions that reflect the priorities, concerns, and experiences of the students in our district. We want to take a moment to acknowledge all the students from OE and OHS that helped us come up with the questions. We look forward to hearing your perspective on how you plan to support and enhance our educational experiences. Thank you all for being here, for your commitment to our school and our community.
So before we begin here, get started, I want to review the candidate response protocol. Each candidate will be given 2 minutes to respond to each question. Every candidate will have the opportunity to answer. You can pass if you do not want to answer the question. You must have the microphone in your possession before you can speak. Once you finish your response, please pass the microphone to the next candidate. We ask that all candidates be mindful of the time and respectful to one another's responses.
Where are we? Candidates, please introduce yourselves by sharing your name and one interesting fact about yourself.
Hi, my name is Katie Hayden. I'm running for the SD308 Board of Education, and an interesting fact about me is I'm a 7th generational Mason in my family. Thank you.
Hello, everyone. My name is Dr. Ravel Polak, and an interesting fact about me is that I'm a foodie, and late at night, I love to take a look at Yelp and see what new restaurants are currently open.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Brandy Robinson. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak in front of the student-led forum. Definitely appreciate it. An interesting fact about myself, even though I am a millennial, as my son would say, I'm kind of ancient, but I still love the Golden Girls. I watch it faithfully on TV Land. I'm going to put that out there. So if you're a Golden Girl fanatic, please come see me.
Hello, my name is Erica C. I am, my interesting fact that I always use as a get to know you is that after college, I spent a summer in a national park in New Mexico, and I got to be part of the wildland fire crew, and I actually fought fires for 2 days.
I didn't know that. There's nothing that makes you feel boring, like when people ask you an interesting fact about yourself and then they all leave. I'm Dr. Heather Martin, and I guess an interesting fact about me that just came up at dinner earlier with some of you is that I was in marching band for many years and met my husband there, and then worked with marching bands for many years. So
We will get started with our first question. This one's an easy one. Which sport do you rock with? Yes, sports. Which sport do you rock with?
Sorry, I'm a big kid at heart. So I heard over just conversation that powder puff, if I'm not mistaken, football, right? So needless to say, I did that in high school at Wabanzi. I am an alumni from there, loved it. So that and then softball, those are my two sports or to go.
Sure, okay, I won't say favorite, but I rock with gymnastics. My daughter's a gymnast, and I spend a lot of time at meets. Also basketball, I'll give a plug there as well.
Thank you. I'd say the sports that I rocked with were track and volleyball in junior high and high school. I learned that basketball was not my thing when I was told I looked like spaghetti on the court. So you live and you learn.
Like Heather, I was a marching band girl, and I played for University of Illinois. So my jam has always been basketball, and luckily my son is now playing it for Special Olympics. So I'm super excited to watch him play.
when I was younger, I played soccer and tennis. And then as an adult, I got into running and ran the Chicago Marathon. And now I spend all my weekends watching my son's swim meets. So
Okay, so we're going to get started with our first question. Just a reminder, you have 2 minutes to answer, and we're going to be going from right to left, left to right, and then so on. Please speak clear in the mic and into the mic. Thank you. So to get started, first we're going to be discussing the topic of psychological safety and wellness. Our first question is, what are you going to do about racial, religious, sexist, and sexual slurs constantly used by students?
Well, first of all, I know there is a zero tolerance policy, but I also know that there are a lot of things that are difficult to enforce when there are not adults around to hear what's going on and monitor things 100% of the time. So I guess I would, first of all, enforce what's already on the books, which is the anonymous reporting, which is the zero tolerance policy. And then beyond that, just creating spaces where people can really live in their identities so that they can have affinity groups, they can have different groups that cater to different identities and different passions, and, ideally create a more inclusive environment.
You started out tough. I don't have the solution to this problem. I do think that we need to have more conversation. I know that you guys are all high school students, and I think you could have respectful conversations with each other. And I think people can learn a lot from each other. I wish I could wave a magic wand and make everyone feel safe and comfortable at school, but I know that that's not the reality. I guess my answer would be that I would reach out to you guys because you're the ones in the classrooms and in the hallways. But I definitely would like to see that be changed in the district.
So my response is much aligned with the two candidates prior. However, I definitely believe in the guidance counselors creating that community for our kiddos. And even though you guys aren't kiddos, you guys are high schoolers, so I do apologize. I have a second grader, so he's my kiddo, so I reference everybody as a kiddo. But you guys are definitely responsible to understand, how to communicate for yourselves, and you guys do not, please make sure that you guys are reaching out to someone at an administrative level or, again, a social worker, because we do have the resources. And if you do not feel like you have that resource, going back to the statement of having a safe space, come to the community because we want to help you and support you. And at the end of the day, you guys should feel safe psychologically, mentally, physically, and all of above. So we are here to support you. And when it comes to, again, policies, we need to make sure that it is enforced, and more importantly, just making sure that your voices are heard when there are some areas of gray that we may not necessarily have navigated through. But again, we need to hear your voices to understand how we can continue to mitigate different safety risks and so forth on.
I think, as everyone else mentioned, obviously there are policies, but oftentimes we have to understand how those policies are implemented. And I think it's about students feeling heard. And so when you tell a trusted adult that you either saw something in a restroom or someone said something to you that's inappropriate, oftentimes we were raised in a way, there was a saying, sticks and stones may hurt my bones, but words will never hurt, but they do. And I think that we have to take those things serious. And I think that there are multiple layers to address it. One, from a restorative end, I think whoever has made inappropriate comments or something that you've seen, I think that they should be held accountable in terms of how do you fix it and how do we work on this collectively and how do we have a sense of understanding. I also think that it is also about educating our students in terms of what you're saying that is really hurtful and helping them understand that words can hurt and we have to be mindful. I also think that it's about what students are looking at. I've heard that sometimes you walk into the restrooms and there are things there that are not pleasing. And I think that we should be proactive, making sure that in communal spaces, students aren't seeing inappropriate things.
Thank you. So my approach is going to be a little different. Obviously, we have policies and procedures in place, but I feel like we are doing the disciplinary after the action that's happening. We need to ask, why is this happening? What's the preventative measures that we could be doing before? Because either it's a misunderstanding, misinformation. I've kind of come under the awareness that I feel our history needs more revamping. A lot of the things that we have where it's something expressed through hate, it's because of a misunderstanding or a miscommunication. How many of you think that maybe we could have maybe more information when it comes to history and overcoming these stereotypes, so then we could have more preventative measures when it comes to making sure that these things aren't taking place at school, at work, and at home. Does anybody feel like we're missing out on different things between culture, gender, racism? Can you raise your hand? Does anybody want to raise their hand where they feel like it needs to be changed? Not everyone is accounted for? Okay, thank you. So my approach would be is not only talking with the students, but our educators, our committee, our staff, so we can make sure not only do we have policies and procedures for you guys, but to make sure that everyone is reflected, because a lot of these things happen because of misinformation and a lack of understanding. So fixing it at the source. Thank you. Oh yeah, that's right. Sorry. Go ahead.
Our next question will be, what will you do to ensure that the curriculum aligns with what we know about our country's history today and provides an inclusive and unbiased representation of that through teaching?
Okay, so I know maybe that was echoed a little bit in the previous question, but when I went to a committee meeting the week before, we are upgrading some of our novels and some of the curriculum that's coming in, because before we were only fitting into one kind of agenda or one kind of stereotype. We need to include all kinds of religion, culture, gender, even political when it comes to that, because if we just stick to one side, we're not going to see the whole picture. So making sure when it comes to curriculum, not only do we have that policy and that procedure, but then we also have community collaboration, job shadowing opportunities. I'd love to hear more about internships in other industries and apprenticeships at all levels for all unions. Thank you.
So as a classroom teacher, as a principal, and currently as a district administrator, I advocate for culturally responsive teaching and essentially making sure that teachers have the materials that they need that provides a diverse perspective, ensuring that students are critical consumers of information. I think that learning should not be one-dimensional. I think that students should be exposed to our history and understand our history so that we can prevent history from repeating itself. And so I think it is really important that you all are critical consumers of information and that your learning is not one-dimensional.
So just to add on, just from my perspective, I definitely believe representation matters, whether culture, religion, and so forth on. So it goes back to your voice. And I also, when I've had the opportunity, just looking at the scores just across the board, whether for high school, elementary, I do wonder, do you guys see yourself in the curriculum as far as what you guys are learning? And as my son will say sometimes, Mom, what am I going to do with this? And those are the conversations I want to make sure I'm advocating for, not only the curriculum, but I want him to be seen in the curriculum. So it is so important that we are making sure that each one of you are seen in some shape, form, or fashion. And if we're not, I think that's when that discussion points happen.
I saw a phrase that said we should be diversifying our history, and the assumption was that we should be including everybody that has lived in America and including all of their history. When I was a kid, a youngin, we learned about Mount Rushmore, but we didn't learn the backstory with the Lakota people. So I think there's definitely ways that we can keep the overarching history taught, but also bring in those nuances, the things that went terribly badly. And I think they're valuable lessons to learn across the board.
Thank you. The curriculum is currently, there was a giant curriculum audit done over the last year, or within the last year, and there were a lot of practices that need to be put in place that the district was made aware of. So the district is in a place right now where they're implementing these changes and they're trying to centralize their curriculum processes and reevaluate what it is they're teaching. I think one of the best things they can do is make sure that everyone on that team, that there is diverse representation on the team of people that is looking at the curriculum, so that all of the students have at least someone with similar representation there that is making sure that they're represented. Additionally, getting community members involved, getting you all involved, getting your families involved, and making sure that that they see representation as well. Yeah, and I think also, you know, we are fortunate to live in a state where there are mandates coming down from the state government about making sure that we do implement curricula with different histories represented. So I think as long as we continue to have diverse voices in those processes, then we will be on a better path than we've been on previously.
Okay, thank you. Now moving on to our second question, we will change topics to now physical safety and wellness. So for our one question, what actions will you what actions will you take to increase the safety of students and staff and ensure that the building remains a safe place for everyone?
So one thing that I feel very passionately about is making data-driven decisions. So I think one of the first things I would do, as currently I am a community member and a parent, so I don't have access to a lot of district information. One of the first things I would do is look at the district information, look at the different incidents that are going on, seeing what the trends are, seeing where those resources need to be allotted, seeing if it's certain buildings, if there's certain classrooms, populations, things like that, so that we can have the targeted supports we need, and then just go from there.
This is another tough one for me. My son frequently complains that he never can get into the bathroom at the high schools because they're either closed or there's weird things going on in there and he doesn't want any part of that. I think that a solution might be to have more staff available to monitor those times, those passing periods, to make sure that things are going the way they're supposed to. But like Heather said, I as a community member, I don't really understand the full grasp of the problem, so I can't really come up with a good solution. But I think hearing from you guys would be a first step, where you don't feel safe, why you don't feel safe, and start there, and then get information from the educators to find out where we can make changes.
So in regards to safety, I would definitely like to see more dean assistants, especially at the high school level. From what I gather, and again, having a ninth grader that goes to OE, I hear about the things, and also I'm that nosy parent that wants to hear, so I'm kind of eavesdropping in the conversations via phone or FaceTime. But I say that to say, I have heard, unfortunately, that some kids are able just to walk out of the school. And matter of fact, my oldest, as I was picking him up for an orthodontist appointment, and he just walked out the doors. I'm like, hey, isn't there a protocol, what have you? He's like, no, Mom, you just walk out. I'm like, but I just don't recall back in my day, as he would say, where we could just walk out the doors. So when it comes to safety, just from that particular example, I would want more safety as far as who's at these doors, who's making sure that you guys have the protection that is needed in each and every school. So when it comes to safety, security, and just feeling safe, that should be a number one priority for us as board members and just moving forward, because you guys should have that safety lens.
Similar, I think it's about taking a look at data. Clearly, this is probably a question because there are times when students don't feel safe. And so I think the question should be posed, when don't you feel safe? What makes you feel unsafe? And then even asking what are some solutions, right, relative to feeling safe. Oftentimes, you can anticipate during passing periods, there may be something that may take place. And so are there more times throughout the day that you are vulnerable as students? And I think as adults, we should know those times and we should be proactive to address that. Also, there is a need to have just ongoing safety drills relative to just different things that impact our schools within society. I know that there are certain safety drills that you all do have, but how do we rev that up? How do we make that more meaningful? And how do we make that a bit mechanical so that we can respond appropriately if necessary? But again, I would definitely take stock in student voice to understand at what point throughout the day aren't you feeling safe, and exactly what behaviors or situations when you don't feel safe.
Thank you. So I always like to do what is called hard conversations. At the end of the day, when we're having safety issues or bullying or mental health, it's because things are either bad at home or because we're struggling as students in the school. Our ratio when it comes to counselors per student, I know is really high for you guys. And it's even harder to have the time to always talk with your social worker. You know, there's so much of our student population and not enough when it comes to our staff and the people who provide the services. My thing would be is what preventative measures could we do to better serve you if there's struggles at home or if there's struggles at school that are impacting both? Because it's more than data. You guys are people. And if one reflects the other, that's how these things happen. So whether it's creating different groups, whether it's having, different mentors in the community to help out with different services. I know our district has certain policies where when students are in school, if the problems aren't happening at school, then they can't always intervene. But I want to let you know that I want to serve people both from home and school if you're struggling, because both matter.
Moving on to our next topic, this relates to cell phones. With the possible banning of all cell phones in schools, how do you plan to ensure school safety and fast communication during events such as lockdowns when children are unable to contact their parents?
So I know that the cell phone ban is in place because I have kids that are in the district as well, where they're being taken away. I think making sure that, we're being receptive to the fact that we could be having family members that are having surgery or have an illness, or there's something coming up where you need to go somewhere, or lockdowns. We need to make sure that you guys have access to your phones to let your parents know that you're safe and that everything is okay, being receptive to that nature. But I've been a part of different summits and expos. If you always have your cell phone out in front of you, what that tells the person next to you or the person who's teaching is that you're not their prime focus. That's not, you're not going to be fully aware or paying attention to the same level. But when you take your cell phone and you put it down and away, that shows them that they are your number one focus and that they have your full attention. It means something. So just know we will be sensitive to all of those life situations, but taking our cell phones and putting them away, whether we're in education or the workforce, shows so much responsibility for your guys' generation. So thank you.
I think that it's definitely a complex topic. I see it from the perspective of a building administrator, and then I see it from the perspective of the mom and wanting to know if my daughter is okay, right? And so that being said, I think the district has the responsibility, particularly if there is a lockdown, where they are rapidly responding to parents to let parents know that children are safe. And I would advocate for, okay, what is the response time and how do we put systems and structures in place for that to happen? Also, where are the phones, right? Are they in the book bags? Like, what is the expectation? If there was really an emergency or if you needed access, are they locked away? So there are a lot of different things that we would have to think about in terms of access. Are there times of the day where students are able to use the phone? I know when I was in high school, I had a job. And so maybe I wanted to check in with my job. Again, you might need to check in if you participate in after school events. And so we would definitely need to define time, spaces, and appropriateness when perhaps you could, in fact, have access.
Much like Dr. Ravel said, this is definitely a controversial topic, and I say that because your generation is definitely tech savvy and very smart as far as if we say you can't do something or can't have something, typically you guys find another route. And I say that respectfully because, again, I have a high schooler. So with that, I do believe there should be a balanced approach, as the two candidates prior did speak about. And that balanced approach, again, going back to safety, can we make sure that you guys have that connection or that line to your parents should there be a protocol that needs to be addressed, or you just may have that moment where you need to reach out to your parent or parents, and you guys should still have that access. So I think when it comes to the whole cell phone, there should be a little bit more discrepancy, but most importantly, everyone should be aligned to what those discrepancies are as far as, when it comes to safety or as far it comes to certain situations where you may need to have access to your cell phones.
I've thought a lot about this one. I'm on the side of the phones need to be away during class. I take a class right now at the Waubonsie Community College, and if my phone is anywhere near me, I'm immediately taken out of the class, and I'm not concentrating on what the teacher's telling me. So I feel like it would be very beneficial for just education in general for everyone's phones to be, in the little pocket in the room. I know that there's going to be exceptions to that, kids who have diabetes who use their phones to monitor it, things like that. I also think that I came from the generation where we were told to come home when the lights went on. And so I think we've lost track of what constitutes an emergency. I think that we all went through school without having constant contact with our parents. And I think that was kind of a good thing because you're kind of on your own and you were in a safe place. Your teachers would, do anything that you needed. If you need to be in contact with your parents, then you can call them. But I think I think as a society, we've become we have to know things instantaneously. And I think in a lot of ways, it would be better if we went back to the old ways where we're not in constant contact with everything. And that way we can focus more in the classroom. They've said that during lockdown events that, phones dinging and beeping and vibrating can also draw attention to a classroom. So I think that it would be better to have them all put away.
I kind of echo what Ravel said earlier about having kind of mixed views on this. As a parent, I do like knowing that my kids can contact me if there's an emergency. As an educator, I know that phones can be a distraction. I'd be curious to see what a ban looked like. If it stays in the locker, it stays at home, it's in the little shoe organizers in front of the room or whatever. So I think that would be one thing to consider is what that actual ban looks like. Another thing to think about would just be, like some previous candidates have said, having a space where it's okay. Are you allowed to have them in study hall? Are you allowed to have them at lunch? And then beyond that, just making sure that communication is quick and transparent from the schools. So if there is an incident, not only do the parents know right away, but you all know that your parents know right away. So you have that kind of security, and then we also know, and I will tell you when there is something that happens, as soon as one of you texts your parents, it's on Facebook instantly. And so then the whole internet goes crazy. I see everyone over the age of 17 nodding right now. But the internet goes nuts, and it causes a lot of anxiety on our end. So I think if there are streamlined communication methods so that you know that we know you're okay and that we know what's going on, and so that we know exactly what's going on, then that will help a lot as well.
Would you like an opportunity to respond to this question? Okay, the question is, with the possible banning of all cell phones in schools, how do you plan to ensure school safety and fast communication during events such as lockdowns when children are unable to contact their parents? Please speak loudly and clear, and you have 2 minutes.
All right. Well, first of all, my name is Jim Martyr, and I want to apologize to all you for being late. And I have no excuse, and I'll take my detention after class. So, So the question was about cell phones in schools. So I know they've been discussing it in Springfield. I actually don't agree with Springfield. I don't think they should be dictating to us in SD308 or any of the school districts around the state on what we should or shouldn't do with respect to cell phones. I really think it's more of a district question, and I also think it's more of a teacher question. Are there appropriate times in class when you guys need them and when you don't need them? And I'm really for empowering the teachers and the staff and to decide when it's appropriate, when it's not. Next thing is I would really like to say that for the most part, we probably don't need them in classrooms, but if there is a rule and a policy that we would make as a board and as a school, we would hope that, and we would expect that all the students would respect whatever that policy is.
Okay, thank you. So now we're going to be moving on to our next question, which is a new topic, is extracurricular activities, arts, and STEM. So our question is, how do you plan to support STEM education in Title I schools where funding has been cut for STEM-related classes and clubs?
All right, so I'll start on this one. So STEM is great. I was one of those students that really liked science technology. I have my degree from Purdue University in industrial management, which is very similar to industrial engineering. And I really will do everything we can to support that. I would see no reason to make cuts. We have a $356 million budget. You guys aware of that? It's a lot of money. So, and I think we just need to make good choices about what we do with the budget that we do have. And, you know, all the opportunities, STEM, you know, there are other places I think we need to expand opportunities. So STEM, I think trades, I think all these other things, but definitely keep those things funded and make sure we have them.
Thank you. So mine would be an approach is how can we make sure that we maintain these extracurriculars, whether it's sports, whether it's STEM, whether, you know, it's hands-on, it's culinary, it's music, art. You know, we're going to have to get to the point of, do we need to think about different fee allocations? I know when we think about sports and we think about traveling sports, it's been different from a district level to traveling teams. And so I do think there's a bridge to gap there that could better serve some of these areas where we're not having enough funding. We also need to take the step up when it comes to our media marketing and community collaboration. I see things being shared on Facebook, but I feel like the content that's being posted is from the adults that are older. I don't feel like the content is always relevant to either the curricular or that it's actually the students doing it. Would the students be able to let me know, do you guys feel like you have enough involvement when it comes to media marketing for SD308? Could you raise your hand if it's a no? Okay. Okay, thank you. Thank you for sharing. And so I think if we could have a better communication between people that are relevant to your guys' age group and then the adults that are looking at it, we could bring more collaboration. We could find better ways to bridge these gaps where students could be doing the marketing, taking on different aspects with STEM and curricular. So then that way we can make sure we're, I forget what the word is, but you're self-reliant, you're sufficient. So even if the funds do fall through on certain federal programs, we know we can maintain ourselves from the inside because we're self-reliant. We're not always relying on all the federal funds, and that's one of the best things we can do as a strategy to keep going. Thank you.
So when I think about the potential loss of perhaps title funding and specific to specialized programming, specifically after-school programs that students need, we all have to be mindful that at least 80% of our budget goes toward staffing needs. That being said, though, irrespective of that, I've always been an educator who is extremely student-centered, and I've always removed barriers to ensure that our students have exactly what they need. There are a number of missed opportunities that we potentially could explore, such as partnerships, if there is some lack of funding, partnerships with universities who offer, programming, and they'll come in and essentially do some of those programs for free. You also think about grant opportunities. I definitely, I definitely advocate for us exploring that option and pursuing grant opportunities or any other community partnerships. I think that that would be amazing for us to have community partnerships that come into the school. It gives you different insights in terms of career explorations, especially when we think about STEM. So I definitely be pretty creative and think about how these opportunities open up options for just extending our reach as a school district.
So I would also like to echo what Dr. Ravel did just speak. However, going back just to the community, myself as a parent, I definitely want to see STEM to continue along with extracurricular activities. And when I do think about different areas that may be defunded based upon federal, I also think about what other opportunities can we all collaborate together, whether, again, grants, as Dr. Ravel mentioned, because there are a lot of grants that we have yet to tap into. And then I also think about just being a professional in the healthcare space. Are there opportunities for us to connect with different companies and employers that are within our community to see if there are funds that they are willing to contribute? So we definitely have other opportunities for allocations when it comes to our school, but most importantly, just making sure that you guys do have access to extracurricular activities and activities that will continue to empower you guys for your path forward.
I have a lot to say on this one, so I'm going to talk fast. My degree is in geology, so after college, I worked in construction, and I was almost always the only woman on the job sites. And I would love to see more girls get into science-related fields. I think we could bring in career professionals that are out there now. We live in a very technology-centered area. We've got Argonne and Fermi, and I would love to see us do more partnerships with them and encourage everyone to get into those science fields because we need them. I would love to see us expand some of our offerings in the extracurricular world. My son is in fencing, but we don't have any fencing clubs here. They just started one in Nequa, so it'd be cool to see something like that. My other son does Special Olympics, and I would love to see us maybe field a unified team, which means we're taking gen ed peers with the Special Olympians and they play together on a team. I think that would be cool as well. And I was talking to a parent the other day about environmental issues, encouraging more recycling, composting, those sorts of things. I was thinking we could collect all the binders that everyone destroys over the school year and rip them apart and recycle their parts so that we're not throwing as much into the landfills. I think that's I got it all out.
All right. I am going to echo what some folks said before me, but I think, first of all, if we were to lose federal funds or any funding really for any reason, I think, something we should do anyway, but would definitely have a greater sense of urgency in that case would be just do a financial audit and see kind of where we can save money as it is already. And then again, really just leaning into those community partnerships. Some folks talked about partnering with local colleges and universities. We have so many STEM businesses opening around, whether it's like new coding places and robotics things. And I think just using the experts we have in our community to kind of fill in those gaps and create agreements and partnerships and hopefully bolster the offerings that we can provide, even if we don't have the funds we need to do it robustly within the district.
Coming to our final question, final topic. This has to deal with future planning. How do you plan to prepare students for life after high school? And what are your ideas for improving schools to equip them for the future?
Sorry, I have a lot to think through. I work in higher ed, so I see a lot of people on different paths with college, and that's not everybody's path. So I think the first thing to do would really to expose you all to different possibilities as early as possible so that you can decide what's right for you, because what's right for you might be not right for the person sitting next to you. And then, once you've had opportunities to explore that, just really connecting you with different available experiences. Can you repeat the question? I want to make sure I hit everything. Sorry.
How do you plan to prepare students for life after high school, and what are your ideas for improving schools to equip them for the future?
Got it. Yep. Okay. So making sure that you just have a path that you're on, because what's right for you is not necessarily right for everyone else. And for the last several years, I've worked in community colleges where some people are there to get a certificate, some people are there to get an associate's degree and leave, and some people are there to transfer to a 4-year. And being able to see people on different paths that are all kind of using that space for a different reason has been really beneficial to me. So I think just making sure that not only are you informed of your options and you can have opportunities to explore them, but also making sure that the people in the district that support you also know how to connect you with the appropriate resources and the appropriate next steps.
I think there's a lot of value in knowing what you don't want to do. I think high school is a really good time to try different things and discover what you know you don't want to do, even as importantly as figuring out what you do want to do. I think that it would be a really interesting project to have people in the community describe what their day looks like, because you may think a job is one way and find out that it's completely different in the day-to-day activities. So I think if we contacted professionals in the community, they could explain what their job looks like so that kids can get an idea of maybe jobs they've never even thought of that they might enjoy. I think there's a lot of room for mentorship and reaching out to the business community to see if there's any connections we can make, even just a day at a warehouse so you understand how the forklifts go, and that may be one of those things where you say that is not what I want to do. Yeah, that was it.
So I recall growing up, my dad gave us 2 choices. I have 2 brothers. I was the middle child. During high school, we either had a choice to well, let me rephrase it. After high school, we had a choice to either go to college or go to the service. And my brother and we went to college, and my oldest brother went to the service. However, as we're all aware, with your generation, you guys have so many different pathways, whether it's YouTube, whether it's being a fashionista, whether it's your realm is just so different from how I grew up, and you guys have access to so much. So I say that to say, I don't even think it should start in high school. I think it should start in middle school. I think that's where we should start having the conversations of where do you see yourself? Where do you want to be? And then we start driving that home as you guys continue to get into high school. And that goes back to having that guidance counselor, having those conversations so they can help you navigate that landscape, whether it's an internship, whether what Erica had mentioned as far as just doing those day-to-day activities regarding that particular field that you may have interest in. And again, I want to say it goes back to the community, because we are here to support you, but we need to make sure that we understand where you guys want to pivot and have that path forward, because ultimately at the end of the day, you guys are the future, and however we can help you, that's how we should be able to do that.
That question reminds me of a conversation that I had with my son who's currently in college, and I recall asking him his junior year, what do you want to be, or who do you want to be? And he thought that it was such an unreasonable question at 16, 17, and it really is. And it makes me think, as an educator, our responsibility is to give you all of the experiences you need to be successful or to pursue your goals. And even if you don't know at age 16, it is my responsibility as an educator to give you all of the experiences that your heart desires so that you can make an informed decision. Everybody may not want to go to college. Some people may want to go into the workforce. Some people may want to become an entrepreneur right after college. But it is our responsibility to give you all of the experiences that you need to make decisions. And let's just say after you've gone into the workforce and you say, you know what, I think I do want to go to college. I hope that the experience you get right here in SD308 will set you on that path to even pivot if that is what you want to do.
Well, I'm in the business of helping people. I really like to be able to come up with a solution and have preventative measures. So I'm going to use this opportunity to just share a wealth of information with you guys. I want you to know that whether either you're going to a community college or a four-year college, you can still take a licensing exam, certification course, or even do a vocational training and have prevailing wages. If you're at current employers right now where you're making 14, 15, 16 an hour, that is not going to help with some of the struggles we're going to have moving forward, especially if you're going to college on minimum wage. And the way you can bridge those gaps are what I talked about with prevailing wages. And just so you guys know, if you guys are doing FASA, if I said that correctly, they are going off of 2023's numbers. And I'll tell you right now, a lot of our hardworking families did not make the same amount of money in 24 and going into 25. So there's going to be hardships on different levels. So I want to encourage you to think about different forms of education, because it could be as quick as 3, 6, 9 months, and you could be making $20-some an hour and still going to community college or even a four-year university. So when you get out, you're not going to be encumbered by debt. I also want to encourage you that if you have a specific skill set where you're amazing at blogging, or you're great at, social media, or you're a photographer, you have something that you want to share with the world, you can go on cyberdriveillinois.com, Secretary of State, and you can start your own business right on there, whether it's an S Corp, a corporation, they even have trademarks, but not everyone is going to share this with you because they want you to just be going about the agenda that's put forth with encumbering students with debt.
Thank you for your time.
I hope that helped. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's actually a super great question. I bet you a lot of you are kind of like, it might be a scary world out there. What are you thinking about what's going to happen after it? Stop worrying about that. Learn how to read, write, and do math well, and communicate, because those are the 4 skills you're going to need in the working world. So I've had the opportunity to work for dozens of companies over the last 30 plus years. I'm a software consultant. I started out working for one company. I worked for that company for 12 years, and then moved back to Illinois, here to Oswego. I've been here for 28 years. And from here, I've traveled a lot of places around the state of Illinois, around the world. There are a lot of amazing opportunities for you guys to do things, lots of cool stuff out there to do. But you need to be able to do those 4 things: read well, write well, communicate, and do math. I learn stuff every day. I learned new stuff today. I had a meeting with someone from India. He was at like 9:30 in his evening. Someone from Germany, a couple clients of mine from Wisconsin, and someone on the East Coast. But we were working together on new stuff. So there's new stuff coming out every day, especially I work in the software world, and lots of exciting things. I get to see a lot of cool stuff, how things are made in factories, walk the factory line, see how things are made, shipped, all kinds of fun stuff, and just look forward to what you can do. I had no idea what I was going to do in high school. Didn't really figure it out till after I got out of college. So, but just do the basics. Learn what you're supposed to learn right now in your classes. Listen to your teachers. I took my inspiration
Thank you for your
from them.
time. So we will turn it over to our students. They will get an opportunity to ask the candidates questions. We will limit it to 3 questions. Does anyone have a question? I'll pass the mic around.
Hi guys, my name's Evelyn. I'm a senior at Oswego. I had a question about kind of like the No Child Left Behind policy idea, not the exact policy. So this is also regarding to cell phones. So in school, like we're being told, we're putting our cell phones away, which I completely understand. I understand the knowledge behind that. But as a student, the thought process I have during this is if I do not have a personal issue with having to put away distractions or devices, not just cell phones, why am I being told to put away stuff that I can handle in class? And this isn't just me being like, oh, I want my phone in class. It's like regarding like if you're spending extra time on extra units, going over explanations, if kids are not paying attention, at what point are you like subjecting the greater good to being, I don't want to say like put down, but like at what point are you like putting the rest of the class behind to get this one or a few students to catch back up? Is there a way you guys think you could combat that or help create a system to where we're not necessarily having to stop everyone to just help a few kids? Or is there just a way to kind of resolve this problem?
So I'm not sure I got the exact question. There's a lot in there, so I'm trying to unpack it. But you're talking about cell phones in the class and how that can be distracting and how.
Yeah, I was just using that more as an example.
Yeah.
Because I know, especially like in my experience, most of my classes I have to put my cell phone away, which is 100% okay. I'm not like complaining about that. I just don't understand as to why, if a few kids are struggling from this distraction, personally from my experience, why is everyone being subjected to this? I don't want to say punishment, but I don't have a better word for it.
So I'll give you a little different perspective. I'm the oldest one here, I'm sure, by a ways. And we didn't have cell phones until I was in the working world, pretty much, halfway through my working career. And I look at it as, and I have a grandson in high school here at Oswego High School, so I know what he does and what he struggles with that as well. And it's really about the learning environment. So I think my biggest thing on the cell phones would be we really need them off in the classrooms for the most part, unless you're in some sort of a class where there's actually free time and if you've completed your work and the teacher's allowed that. But for the most part, we need a spot where you're not distracted. If we can do that, we can accomplish that in the classroom, why shouldn't you be able to have it at lunch hour or whatever? I don't see a big issue with that. I can even tell you that back in the day when those first type of games came out, we had them in the lunchroom when we were kids. It wasn't a problem, and as long as you didn't have them out in the classroom. If you had them out in the classroom, the teacher would take it away. So that's how it worked.
So I know what you mean by the No Child Left Behind Act, because you're supposed to make sure that every child has the interventions and services that they need, and that when you don't have enough staff or social workers or teacher aides, that's how that can impact your experience in the classroom. I know you guys have larger classroom sizes, so I do understand that the frustration can be on different levels, and that's why we really need to bring on more teacher aides, more social workers, because that means those kids in the classroom could not be getting the services that they need, whether it's being pulled out or for social work, and then it's a distraction to the rest of the class. So I do get your perspective, but we need to make sure we somehow help our teachers out, because one teacher for a student body of 28 to 35, like that's not even acceptable in the daycare world. So that shouldn't be acceptable at our public schools. So thank you for bringing that up. I appreciate it.
So I honestly, as mentioned earlier, I oscillate back and forth on this topic because it's a complex topic. To your point, if I don't need that guidance, if I can have my cell phone out and it's not a distraction, is what I'm thinking that you're asking, it doesn't bother, it's not impeding my ability to learn. However, my counterpart, it's impeding their ability to learn. Why is it that I have to acquiesce to the request to put away my phone, is what I think that you're asking. Kind of, sort of? Yes, okay. Yeah, in general, I think that there are some missed opportunities, right, in terms of being able to teach like digital citizenship, right? And I don't think cell phones are going away anytime soon, right? But then from the other perspective of it, I also see the loss of instructional time as well, where teachers are asking students, please put away your phone. And then students may say, I don't have out my phone. What are you talking about? Like, that's a lot of lost time sometimes. So I see it from multiple perspectives. What I can say, if I was to become a board member, I would adhere to whatever the state guidance is. Again, I definitely want some structures in place, though, that when there are specific times that you would need the phone, to be sure that those systems are in place.
I agree with the other candidates and echo to the same sentiments. However, as mentioned, definitely having a balanced approach will be key. We want to make sure we understand and hear your voices because there will be times where we may not understand it. And that's just coming from a parent. So we definitely want to make sure that your voice is continuing to be heard. So with that, I would just ask if you do see some inconsistencies, please let us know. Let your administration know, let your teachers know, because we can't do other areas of improvement or understand your voice without hearing your voice. So please continue to speak up and ensure that we are doing the best that we can.
I've seen a lot of studies that say that the schools where the kids put their phones in a pouch at the beginning of the day and don't get them back to the end of the day, it encourages the kids to talk to each other. And like they weren't before, because as soon as the bell rang, they were instantly into their phone and their attention was directed there. So while I understand your point as you're not really punishing everyone, but I think there's an opportunity to get to know your fellow students more if you're still in the classroom and not out, distracted by your phone. I think it would help with a lot of the issues that we talked about at the beginning with people using slurs and name calling. If you actually communicate with each other more friendly, that we may see a reduction in that. If I'm elected to the board, I think it's a discussion that's going to continue, and the board will have to come up with a policy probably. But I just, as a parent and knowing my own experience with my phone, I think it's beneficial for everyone to kind of put them down and focus on what you're doing at the time.
I'm going to take a different direction. Did you also want to know a little bit about curriculum and
My question was more of just like asking like if there's a better way to structure just like specifically like taking certain aspects of the classroom away, not just phones, but like I feel like oftentimes in a lot of my classes everyone is being told to do a certain procedure even though it may not help everyone. And that's more of my question. I was just wondering if there's a way to better focus on those certain individuals who need help, because I feel like a lot of times we're taking more of a generalized approach.
Yeah, no, I completely understand. And so I had mentioned the curriculum audit earlier, and one of the issues that was identified is that a lot of the teachers in the district are creating their own materials. And that takes a lot, especially for you all, your high school teachers. Like, they teach more than one class. They have several different classes. And if they're preparing materials for every single class and they're teaching you during the day and they're grading everything you turn in, that is a lot of time and a lot of bandwidth. So one of the issues that the district is dealing with is making sure that the teachers know what resources they have available to them so that they don't have to spend their time creating things for everybody, because that should be done more consistently throughout the district. And with that, there will also be more opportunities for them to, first of all, have some bandwidth freed up to be able to do more differentiation, more different things in class for different learners and different preferences maybe. And then as well, they will also be able to identify the need for intervention a little bit earlier. So it might be that those students that, like you kind of alluded to, there are some students that might be a little bit behind, or they might have a little it might take them a little more time to catch up, and the rest of the classes maybe getting bored, maybe getting a little unruly, maybe wants to be doing something else or moving forward. Ideally, those students will be identified earlier. In addition to that, there's also a lot of what we call high impact practices, which are things like, it's called universal design for
Thank
learning,
you for
which
your
just
time.
means, okay,
I'm
I'll
sorry.
tell you about it some other time. It's fascinating.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Okay, Andrew.
Hello, my name is Andrew Majano. I'm a junior at Oswego East High School. I'm the founder and president of a mock trial club at OE, and I'm here representing our club today, here with some of our fellow members. So both of my parents are involved in education, so the decisions that you all are and the policies that you all are promoting is something that really matters to me, because I know it's not only going to affect me, but also my parents. And so a question I wanted to ask is about mental health. I know that teachers and staff here in SD308 and in any teaching role have to do a lot, right, for their kids. And I know that it's a very rewarding job, but that it can also be a job that's, can be taxing on mental health. So my question to you all is, what specific policies will you introduce as a board member to support the mental health of staff and teachers in SD308?
That is the $1 million question, sir. Thank you. So one thing that is really, that I feel very passionately about, and this is, I don't know, this might be the most controversial thing I say, is teacher burnout workshops. Because a lot of times what teachers do is they have these workshops because someone in charge of professional development is like, oh, our teachers are really tired and our teachers are exhausted and they don't have any bandwidth. And then they give a training on like breathing exercises, which is not necessarily going to fix the problem, because realistically that time could have been used to organize a classroom or do some extra grading. So I think what I would most like to do is engage with the teachers and find out what it is they need. Because in some cases it might be something like mental health support. It might be something like learning some practices so they can better support themselves. But in other cases, it might just be an extra hour or two in your classroom. It might just be setting up a room. It might be designating time for grading. It might be just kind of throwing them a bone with some of the things they already have on their plate. So I would really want to engage with the teachers to find out what they need and help them however they feel would be best.
I'm married to a teacher from another school district, so I see it from the home perspective. I think the biggest thing we could do to help our teachers is try to roll back those class sizes, because if you think about it, if a teacher goes from 25 students to 30 over 5 class periods, that's an extra 25 students that they're now having to grade papers for. And if it's 10 minutes to grade a test, it takes 250 minutes, and it just adds up exponentially. I don't know if we're there financially, but I would love to see us work on getting there to reduce class sizes. I think that there's a lot of misconception about teachers, that they're lazy, they don't work in the summer, so therefore they don't deserve to be paid what they're paid. I think as a community, we need to support all the teachers, because they do a job that most of us cannot do. I would love to see us maybe look into having parent volunteers come in and take some of that menial stuff that teachers have to do off their plate, making copies or setting up labs. Those are just some suggestions that I have off the top of my head.
So as you may see on my shirt, it says "You Are Enough," and that deals truly with mental health. Especially in the healthcare industry, we have seen the numbers significantly continue to grow, especially after COVID. So mental health just across the board, whether you're a student, whether you're a parent, whether you're a caregiver, those numbers are definitely continuing to increase, whether financial, whether just different burdens that every person sometimes carries. So what I would say with that, it goes back to resource, goes back to community, but most importantly, like today, we're having these conversations. We need to understand where each and every person is at, because we're very diverse. And in order to understand your needs, we need to have conversations much like we're having today. So I definitely believe having the resources, making sure that we are being impactful, but most importantly, intentional in each and every space, so we can understand the mental health, so we can make sure that you guys are thriving. And of course, the teachers too, because without the teachers, where are our students? Where are we as a whole?
And I do want to be clear, when we say mental health, we're talking in regards to educators, correct? Okay, perfect. So I think I see it from multiple lenses. I do lead an HR department, and that being said, I have to look at it from the end of the insurance and when you're negotiating insurance and being sure that you have packages that actually address right mental health, and teachers are able or educators are able to tap into that from just from a health perspective. I think when we think about what happens right here at school, it is about how we are supporting teachers. This is a tough job. I've been doing it for 20 plus years. And the one thing that keeps me coming back is when I work with incredible leaders and I work on an incredible team. And so making sure that it is a culture that is positive, it's a culture that is supportive, it is a culture that sees them beyond just the teacher, but it's a culture that understands you're human too. And so how are we making teachers feel appreciated? We're coming up to Teacher Appreciation very soon. Hopefully, there are just some pretty amazing ways that we're showing gratitude. And so it's not just what you're doing one day, but what you're doing every single day and how you are supporting educators.
Thank you. I know that you had asked what kind of policies or what kind of plans would we bring. If everyone doesn't know, we actually have 30% of students that are a part of low-income families. And so if we're talking about classroom sizes, maybe we could do something where we could bring in more teacher aides. I know Erica was talking about how financials could be an issue, but there is a place called, it's called CPD. It is a nationwide program where they go out and you work with either staff, administration, teachers, and they create certification programs. I think it would be really amazing if we could give back to these low-income families, bring teacher aides in with different levels of certification that could be built within the district. So we're helping community and teachers so they don't feel that burnout that we're talking about. And I've heard so many of you echo how you want to have better connections with your teachers. Let's talk about block scheduling again. I had it when I was at OHS way back when in 2005 when I graduated, but you guys could have more one-on-one time with your teachers and get the extra help and services that you need. And so giving back to the community, certification programs, and block scheduling are how I would like to better serve mental health in District 308. Thank you.
So really good question, sometimes difficult topic. I think number one, we have to keep the resources that we have in place and we have to provide them the support that they need. As far as policy goes, to me, how do you improve the mental health of a community? And I think you have to have a positive environment where everyone feels safe and secure. So I think it starts with that. It starts with a positive environment where everyone's really there to support each other and help each other and learn. So our goal here is for learning. It's for your success. It's for student success. And I think we need to focus on that, right? So opportunities, more opportunity. How do you get there? You get more opportunities. That might be athletics. It might be the arts. It might be science for some. And I think what we have to do is expand opportunities. And I think we have a lot, but I think only a certain percentage of the students are able to take advantage of that. And I think we need to expand it more so, right? We also need to look at opportunities when you get out of school, like how many people are going to go to college. That's great. I think we have a great curriculum from that. What about trades? Do we need to, we have, and I know because I have sons that graduated from Oswego High, we had some good trades programs then, but do we have enough? Can we expand there? It was one of the things I enjoyed the most when I was in high school was my different trades classes. I had 4 years of trades starting with freshman year where we had 6 different opportunities, and then you could kind of pick from there and go into that all the way to your senior year. So I think to me about how do you improve that environment that you're all in, it's more opportunities, more focus on your success. How are you going to be successful in the future? And it's by succeeding now in school, learning the most you can, and then, kind of figuring out what your path is.
Thank you for your time. We'll have one more person.
You can choose. No, you can choose.
Kelly, can you choose, please? Take it, please.
Okay, I'm taking it. Oh my gosh, you can just ask. I'll have her. Sorry.
Hi, I'm Vanessa Huggins, and we're all with BSA actually. And the question that we have today is about extracurricular clubs like MSA, BSA, or even LASSO. My question is, what do you guys think about the clubs like MSA and BSA that represent specific cultures or religions? And what do you guys think about like the future for those clubs? And do you guys think that those clubs help our school community? Okay. So my question was, what do you guys think about clubs like MSA, BSA, or LASSO that represent specific cultures or religions? And how do you think that MSA or BSA or any other clubs that represent these type of things benefit our school community? And what do you guys see for the future of these clubs? Thank you. Okay, so BSA is Black Student Association, and MSA is Muslim Student Association, and LASSO is Latin Americans. Yeah, so different.
All right, since I get the mic, I guess I'll take it first. So just as I was talking about in the last question is really, I'm all about opportunities for students, and to the extent that we have to abide by our U.S. Constitution law, we have to be within that. As long as we're within those boundaries, I think the more opportunities for all of our students, we should have those. We should have opportunities to promote that. And, those are the things that I think really help enhance your learning environment. So after school programs, again, athletics, sports, clubs, arts, theater, those kind of things. I think we need to just work what we can to make sure we have all the opportunities available to all of our students. At the end of the day, it's about focusing on what's going to make you successful in the long run. And I think one of the things that in the working world, and like I said, I've worked in dozens of different companies across the United States, and you have to be able to meet and understand people. And I work with people from around the world every day. I've worked overseas, I've done all that. And it's good to have opportunities where you can have social, but I hope you can put your phone down while you're in these clubs too, right? So, but we can get away from that. But yes, let's make sure we have all the opportunities we can get.
Thank you. Actually, this is a good question, so thank you for bringing it up, because I did want to ask, since you guys are a part of this group, these different groups, and just raise your hand if you can, do you get the opportunity to be active on the platform and post relative content to what's actually going on? Is that happening? Okay. Just because there were a few groups that I feel like some of the ones that I have seen when I've gone on either the Facebook or the Instagram, like 100 and some followers or 98. And I feel like these groups and these platforms are severely underserved. But then when you go and you look at athletics, you look at art, you look at music, they have a huge amount of followers. So this is a bridge that we need to gap, because there's not enough visibility where people know that these groups are taking place and how they can support it as community members, especially when we talk about partnerships and collaborations. We need to make sure that it's out there so then the community can access it, the students have access to it, and there's enough resources to support these groups. So let's better bridge this gap that really needs to be served. Thank you.
So I remember being an undergrad, and I was a part of Black Student Union. I was also a part of a number of clubs. I was a thespian. I was also a part of Amnesty International. So that wasn't the only club that I was a part of. But I remember needing that space, because I needed to be able to relate to people who shared the same culture that I shared, who perhaps they were raised very similar to me, those spaces were really important. To be honest with you, I don't think that I could have completed college if I didn't have those spaces. It is really important that you are able to connect, that you feel a sense of belonging. And so I will always advocate for any space or any affinity space that students need, whether it be something that is specific to a culture, if it is specific to beliefs, religious, if it's specific to extracurricular sports. I think that it is critically important that students are able to see themselves at school and that there is a sense of connection.
So growing up in District 204, a very diverse population, much like District 308, I consider you guys a melting pot as far as just diversity, culture, religion, and so forth on. So I do believe representation does matter. Everyone should be able to understand a unique perspective, because when you go to corporate America, or whether you go to just different areas and pathways that you may decide, you need to be able to understand that particular person, but most importantly, be empathetic. And I think that's where it starts, when you have these conversations, when you're able to understand different cultures, different religions, and so forth on. So to have these particular associations at the high school level and even in middle school, I think it's fantastic. I'd like to see more, because again, diversity is key, and you will see that more and more as you continue to grow yourself.
I agree with some of my fellow candidates. I think they're great programs. I think that kids need to be in groups that make them feel comfortable, and I would love to see the groups talk to each other, so that you guys are sharing your experiences and your differences, because those are also important, but then being able to come back to your own space and share your experiences. Yeah, that's all I got.
All right. I also fully support all of the clubs that are, all of the clubs, but also the ones tied to cultural identity, to religious identity, things like that. And I kind of want to expand on something that Ravel said. She said, she had the experience of being able to associate with people that were raised like her, which was really valuable, but also, like, you are in a time where you're kind of figuring yourselves out. And I think associating with people that have commonalities, but also some differences within that, exploring like those differences, whether it's intersectionality, different immigration journeys for your families, things like that, is also really important. So I think those clubs allow you a space not only to connect with other people who have similarities, but also to kind of figure yourself out and connect with yourself and kind of explore that on a deeper level. So absolutely, I support them.
So as we've concluded our questions, I will give you candidates an opportunity to leave your lasting remark upon the students and our viewers at home. So you can just start and go down.
Or at the end was rough.
If you don't want to, you can pass. You still have an opportunity to pass if you'd like, but this is just an opportunity for you to make your last statement for tonight.
No, I just want to take a moment to thank you all. I don't know when I was in high school if I would have done what you're doing. So congratulations to all of you. You're awesome. Thank you to everyone watching at home. Hopefully there are people there. But I just want to encourage all of you to go out and vote. These elections typically only have 11 to 12% voter turnout, which is really, really low, obviously. We have about 58,000 voters in the district. So I just want to take this time to not only thank you all, congratulate you, but encourage everyone here that is able and everyone at home to go out and vote before the 1st. If you are going away for spring break, please make sure you vote early, because Election Day is the day we get back. Thank you so much for having me.
I went into tonight pretty nervous, because I find that the questions from you guys are always the toughest, and they cut right to the quick. I echo Heather's ideas that everyone should vote, encourage your parents to vote. And I really see good things happening for SD308, and I want to push us in that direction. I have had a great experience with my kids going through the district, and I want to continue that process. Thank you.
One thing I will continue to echo is just making sure that your voices are being heard throughout the campaign and even afterwards. And again, community, because we are here to support you. No, I'm not an educator, but I'm a parent, and I see you guys, and I want to make sure that you guys are supported, whether mental health, whether it's understanding what the budgeting, what are the opportunities that we have. I think conversations are important, but most importantly, transparency. So I do believe that will be key as we continue to move forward, so everybody across the board can understand what the future looks like and how we can continue to move forward. But ultimately, as the two candidates prior to me stated, please go out and vote. Every voice counts, every vote matters. Thank you.
Thank you so much for hosting this event. It was really important to me. I too was a little nervous coming in, and I think I was nervous for the fact that this is really about you. We are here because of you. And what I want you to understand, if some of you can vote, definitely please vote. This election really matters. Know that I will always advocate for you. I will do what's in the best interest of students first. And also, it is my goal. I've spent 20 plus years removing barriers for students to ensure that they have what they need to thrive as young adults, going into young adulthood. So that being said, thank you so much for having us. I really enjoyed this event.
Thank you again for having all of the candidates here. I want to thank everyone for putting the questions together and for those taking the extra steps to public speak. I know it's not easy. It's hard sometimes to stand up there. So thank you so much for that. And then just know that we've been speaking with students for the last 5 years. We've been going around to Kendall and Kane County schools. So I've heard people's voices from students, staff, and educators, and know that your success matters to me because you guys are going to be the future leaders of our nation when I'm old and I can't do it anymore. So your success matters in education and the workforce. So make sure you get out there and you start voting March 17th. And like they said, spring break is right around the corner. So election day is also on April 1st. But thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you again, just like everyone else. You guys did an amazing job putting this together. I apologize again. I'm ready to serve my detention for being late, so I'm sorry for that. Again, to me, there is an amazing world with amazing opportunities out there for you, and just get ready for it. But take it one day at a time. Don't worry about it too much. Learn as much as you can during your days here in school. 4 simple things: learn how to read, write, do math, and communicate, and all your other subjects will take care of themselves. And I love the opportunity to learn. I hope you guys can do that too. It's about student success. That's my number 1 priority. That's you, student success. 2, safety and security. You got to have safety and security. It's kind of hard to have student success without safety and security. 3, as a board member, this is the job we're running for, it's fiscal responsibility. Spend the money wisely that the taxpayers entrusted us to help educate you. 4 is teacher empowerment. I really want your teachers to be able to do their best and do their best job and have roadblocks removed from them. And finally, collaboration with your parents. We need your parents here too. We want to see from them. We want to hear from them. We want them to know that they're following what you're doing, and so you can discuss that with them. So that's what I'm running for. That's why I got in this race, and I'm very honored to have the opportunity here. Thank you.
Okay, so okay, so thank. Okay, so thank you. Thank you to all the candidates for sharing your perspective and taking the time to engage with us tonight. As students, we appreciate leaders who value our voices and commit to making decisions that impact our education and future.
We look forward to seeing how you continue to advocate for the success and well-being of all students in our districts. Again, thank you for engaging and sharing your perspectives, and have a great evening.